Hey, it's your girl Lynn, the party chef, and today we are making St. Louis style barbecue ribs. Let's jump in with what you're going to need today. Kosher salt, black pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, smoked paprika, regular paprika, and brown sugar. What we're actually putting together here is a dry rub for these ribs. So we're going to measure all of our ingredients into this bowl here. We're going to start with kosher salt. We're going to use 1 tablespoon of kosher salt. Always in my kitchen, I use kosher salt. You can use table salt if that's what you have. It's not a big deal. Then we're going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of onion powder. You can also use granulated onion. It doesn't matter. We're going to follow that by adding in 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. You can also use granulated garlic. You can also add more spices if to your taste. It's not anything that's set, okay? It's all according to your taste. We used 1 teaspoon of pepper, and now we're going to add in 4 tablespoons of the paprika. Normally I would use smoked paprika, but I ran out, so I used regular paprika and then smoked paprika. That smoked paprika really gives it a nice smoky taste, which is good for these ribs. Now we're adding in our dark brown sugar, and then we're going to put that to the side. We're using 4 tablespoons here. All right, next we want to get these ribs together and all cleaned up, but as you notice, I have this red cutting board here, which is only used for meat. We're going to put a wet paper towel underneath for safety to make sure that that board does not move, okay? This is a pack of ribs. I paid under $20 for 2 racks. I'm going to cook 1 rack and put the other in the freezer for cooking at another time. So we're going to get these really cleaned up nice. Now, if you were going to cook both racks, you would just double the ingredients for the rub. All right, so now we're going to get these ribs ready. Always on the back side, there is a membrane that we want to take off of this rack of ribs. So I'm just going to take a knife and place it underneath in the corner, and we're just going to pull it back. Sometimes it's a little difficult to remove, so you can grab it with a paper towel and pull it back. A little easier to help you get that membrane off. So we want to get that all off, and then we want to clean as much fat off of these ribs as we can. So we're just going to take a good look at the ribs and then cut off any excess fat. So I'm just using a small paring knife here to cut off the excess fat. Again, I'm going to do that on both sides of this rack of ribs. This particular rack of ribs is about 2 3/4 pounds. All right, so we're just, again, going to inspect it, take off all the fat, and then we're going to wash them. Now, I've added some vinegar to this water. There's a big debate on do we wash meat or not, but we'll save that for another time. So I've added vinegar. You can use lemon and vinegar. You can use salt also. There's a bunch of different things that you could use, but I put vinegar into the water and cold water, and we're just going to again, look over the meat to make sure we get all of that excess fat off. Once we have done that and rinsed these ribs off really, really well, we're going to rinse them in cold water, and then we are going to dry them very well. Now that the ribs have been dried well, I'm going to move them onto this sheet pan here so that we can start putting this dry rub onto the ribs. Again, we want to make sure that they're dry. You can leave a little bit of moisture because we want this marinade to stick. But for the most part, we want it to be mostly dry. Some people will add mustard here. It's your choice, but I'm just using a straight dry marinade today. Again, I'm inspecting the ribs. I see that there's a little bit more of that membrane that I'm taking off before we begin to add on our dry rub. So I'm just going to pretty much add dry rub starting on the back side, about half of the dry rub, because we're going to use half for the back and half for the front. So I'm going to just pour it over sparingly, just using my eye to see what's about half. And we're just going to push it into the meat here. We want to make sure that every space is covered if we can. So just rub your hand back and forth and just push down to get that rub really into the meat. Again, these ribs are going to be in the refrigerator for about 4 hours at least, or overnight. So again, you're just going to press down this dry rub until all parts of the meat are covered. This marinade can also be made in advance. If you'd like to, you can just measure all your ingredients and make a larger batch and just keep it in a sealed jar in your pantry. All right, so we're going to get ready to put a piece of foil over this, and it's going to go into the fridge for 4 hours, up to 4 hours to overnight. All right, so there it is. You can see how the rub is all pressed in, and it's ready to just sit so those flavors can just marinate into the meat. Be sure when you're working to clean up your space. I'm using a Clorox wipe here on the counter because we were dealing with meat. You want to be careful of contamination, so cleanup is very, very important when you are cooking in your kitchen. Be mindful of that. Okay, now that the ribs are in the fridge, I'm going to finish cleaning up and wash up these dishes. So again, I'm just going to add water into this bowl with some dish detergent. Also, I notice I have a gray rag there that is for washing the dishes, and I have a separate one for cleaning the dishes, okay? So I'm just putting some soap there into hot water always when we're washing dishes, and I'm adding a little bleach. A little bleach never hurt anybody, all right? So we're just going to wash up these dishes. Again, that's very important. Bleach helps sanitize when you are cooking, especially when you're using meat. It's very, very important. You don't want any cross-contamination to take place in your kitchen. So we're just going to wash up these dishes with soap and water. Also, the cutting board, we're using that too with the bleach in it. That's very important to make sure that your board is clean for future use. Again, that board there, the red board, is only used for meat in my kitchen. I have a green one that is used for vegetables, and then I have a wood one, but I never use meat on the wood one. You got to be very careful of that. Again, mindful of cross-contamination. So once we finish doing that, we're going to also clean up our sink. Just going to spray a little Clorox. Again, sanitation is very, very important in your kitchen, so be sure that you are cleaning everything properly. Again, be mindful of your surfaces and utensils because people can get sick if they are not cleaned properly. We're going to make sure to wash out that sink. Again, we've been working with meat, and we want to make sure everything stays sanitized to guard against contamination. I'm using some Clorox spray right into the sink, and I'm going to use my cleaning rag, which is separately from what I use to wash the dishes, and I'm just going to wipe that sink out with the Clorox spray. Also the strainer, and we're just going to rinse that really well. Ribs are now ready to go into the oven. You can see the juices are starting to run. We're going to transfer it to another pan with Silpat, cover it with foil, and it's going to go into an oven for 2.5 hours on 250 degrees. Now that our ribs have cooked, they're ready for the sauce. So I'm using a Duke's brand sauce today. It's a bourbon sauce that I found in the local market, very tasty. I'm actually using 2 kinds of sauces today because I didn't have a full bottle of either, so you can mix and match whatever you like. It's no set formula. It's all according to your taste. So I'm just going to put this sauce on both sides, and I'm going to use a pastry brush to just brush that sauce all over both sides of the rack of ribs. If you don't have a pastry brush, you can use a knife. It's okay, really. They're going to go into the broiler on the high setting for 10 minutes, and this is what it looks like when they're all done. They came out very, very juicy. They were so, so tender. I was able to pull the bone right out of those ribs and then slice them, cut them up, and put them into my containers so they can go into the fridge. So today I paired these St. Louis style ribs with macaroni and cheese, collard greens, and a little potato salad. I hope you're enjoying my videos. Please do subscribe and follow for more. Thanks for watching. Let's party.